A peaceful home and a calm mind are the best luxury a man can have at 75. That peace is still only a dream for King Charles. Carrying the load and burden of a 1,000-year-old obligation, he is negotiating his own mortality. He served as his brother's shield for many years. He hoped that the harm Prince Andrew had caused to the family name would finally be repaired by time and quiet. However, pity has its boundaries when it starts to resemble complicity. Prince William has already taken steps in the direction of a more difficult and essential reality. He and Catherine are now the family's lifeblood. With a steely dignity that has become the monarchy's only true foundation, they weather their own personal storms. William does not approach the matter with the sentimentality of a brother. From the perspective of a future monarch, he observes it. He is aware that clarity, not nostalgia, is essential to the institution's continued existence. He believes that a branch that doesn't heal eventually poses a hazard to the tree as a whole. Sandringham's quiet hallways, at last something has changed in the air. Quiet allowances and mediation are becoming less common. The Royal Lodge is being overtaken by a storm. It is the result of decades of entitlement coming together with a new reign that refuses to let the mistakes of the past define it. The scene is set for an agonizing farewell. This is the start of a purging that has been planned for years. At last, the brother is losing out to the monarch for the throne. Prince Andrew was supposed to have a quiet 66th birthday on February 19, 2026, rather the bulky gates of. For the police, Royal Lodge opened. The king's brother faced a chilly legal reckoning after being detained for 11 hours. This transcended social connections and outdated headlines. It focused on the private information he purportedly handled as his own throughout his tenure as a trade envoy. Such a catastrophe is grimly inevitable. It is hoped that a guy, especially one born into such privilege, will ultimately outgrow his carelessness. However, optimism is not a luxury that can sustain a monarchy. The late Queen's personal conflicts with her son are just now starting to take shape. The warnings she silently experienced are revealed by Robert Hardman's investigation. Eventually, even David Cameron lifted the professional curtain, calling the prince a diplomatic disaster. Andrew was completely indifferent to the laws and far too at ease with despots. He worked under the perilous delusion that he was permanently immune from responsibility because of his title. The last of that protection was destroyed throughout that exhausting day in detention. Throughout his reign, King Charles has attempted to gracefully handle this familial turmoil. Brotherly mercy can no longer reach the law. The reality of the crown's survival has now confronted the fantasy of the untouchable prince. The law is a sword that disregards family ties, yet a brother's love served as a shield. Packing boxes is never the only part of leaving a house. It is the sobering realization that a chapter of life has come to an end. When it came to delaying the inevitable, Prince William showed no mercy. He is aware that a monarchy cannot survive if it is rooted in an unrepentant history. The gates of Royal Lodge opened for the last exit on Easter Monday in 2026. The driveway was lined with moving trucks carrying containers that still had the HR cipher on them. They had formerly been emblems of untouchable status, but now they appeared to be artifacts from a vanished civilization that were just waiting to be exterminated. It is a chilly education to move from 30 rooms of opulent history to the humble walls of Marsh Farm. The soul is being diminished. King Charles stayed aloof, providing no last-minute breaks. He has come to terms with the fact that, in situations where brotherly love could not, the law must now determine the course. Following this breakdown, Sarah Ferguson disappeared. She didn't wait for the key to turn one last time. From Zurich to Verbia, they seek safety in secret getaways. She has withdrawn into a quiet that her family is unable to access. Her daughters are left to stand in the silent halls, confronting unanswered questions. The York age did not simply come to an end. It vanished. At this point in our lives the most, we come to the realization that we cannot avoid the effects of our decisions. There's only a frenzied, uneasy motion. Sarah Ferguson, no peaceful haven. She is a woman who drifts between Vernia's seclusion and Zurich's sterile hallways. She now uses a revolving carousel of cell phones to organize her life. It is not a grandmother who once had tea with a queen, but rather the strategic secrecy of a fugitive. It's not just about the physical distance. She has been driven toward desperation by the breakdown of her environment. She finds solace with spiritual healers in an effort to muffle the sound of a collapsing legacy. Making contributions to heart-related books seems like a last-ditch effort to recover a story she lost a long time ago. Finding inner security while sleeping in the guest rooms of reluctant friends is a great irony. The title of Duchess served as her compass for 40 years. Without the company's protection, she is learning that when you are effectively in hiding, it is difficult to communicate in the language of your emotions. This is the cost of a life on shifting sands. The crown keeps on its unrelenting, unsentimental march while Sarah roams the Alps. The gates are now closed. It's chilly outside. At last, the York age is over. Every legacy eventually reaches a point where the name is insufficient to cover the costs. Edward VIII made the tragic decision to go into exile for love in 1936. Today's events are more colder and more definitive. When a royal prince is imprisoned, the old barriers finally crumble. For ages, a family name was a stronghold that no law enforcement official dared to enter. The stronghold has collapsed. After being detained for 11 hours, a prince became a regular official. It meant that the dry, unyielding ink of constitutional duty had taken the place of the old mystery of the monarchy. This is a contemporary purging driven by the same brutal imperative but without the axe. To safeguard the body, the crown must cut off a harmful limb. Prince William and King Charles are no longer leading a holy dynasty. They are operating as the state institution's final auditors. The full impact of this open world is first felt by the Yorks. Today, being a Windsor means working for the government under strict guidelines. In exchange for strict responsibility, the monarchy has given up its alleged divinity. The protection of royal blood from the law is no longer available. The changeover has finished. The days of the untouchable are long gone. The burden of service is all that's left. The ancient royal maps have been thrown away. The time period. The very people who had previously guarded the titled spare, living in the shadow of backroom transactions, demolished it. A lean exposed monarchy is emerging right now. A legal reckoning is no longer prevented by the royal gate's lack of grandeur. Only the last exit is framed by them. William and Charles are fortifying a stronghold. They guarantee that the following generation inherits a working institution rather than a haunted ruin by lifting the burden of scandal. The inner circle is now smaller. The surrounding air. It is now thinner. This new reality has a heavy, quiet majesty. The dismal physics of survival have taken the place of reckless vanity. The crown can no longer afford the luxury of sentimentality. The brother's emotions must ultimately be silenced by the duties of a sovereign. Because the alternative was for everything his mother had achieved to fall apart, Charles permitted the law to enter his own family's private sphere. The York age has come to a chilly final conclusion. I often wonder what each of us would weigh. The weight of such a huge obligation against the bonds of blood. Please share your thoughts on this in the comments section. In order for us to continue tracking this developing story together, kindly subscribe. See you in the upcoming